OsseoFiber Intelligent Bone Regeneration Technology is the first of its kind implant material. The material is stronger than cortical bone, used to securely fixate and fully integrate into the native anatomy with nothing left behind. Unlike other implants, OsseoFiber contains the same natural minerals that are found in bone themselves. It's, however, stronger, and it eventually becomes part of the bone, encouraging a return to full strength naturally without the risks and costs associated with permanent hardware. OsseoFiber offers surgeons and patients the confidence and certainty of a fully biointegrative solution that utilizes existing reimbursement and surgical techniques and provides a more natural healing environment. OsseoFiber has over 40,000 implantations in major segments of orthopedics such as foot and ankle, hand and wrist, and recently, pediatrics and sports medicine. Don't settle for metal. OsseoFiber, a permanent solution without permanent implants. Only one word comes to mind right now, and that is just wow. I'm just so moved by this episode with Dr. Afshin Razi, who is an orthopedic surgeon. He's a spine surgeon in Brooklyn. He tells his unbelievable story as an Iranian Jew at the age of 17, about 8 years after the Iranian Revolution, how his parents snuck him out of the country, arrives in America at the age of 17, can barely speak English, gets into college based on his amazing grades, and literally graduates in 3.5 years, excels, goes to medical school at Albert Einstein, and then gets into one of the premier orthopedic programs at the Hospital for Joint Diseases with Joe Zuckerman as his mentor, and then basically goes into practice in Brooklyn. And what I love, there's just so many circles. Kevin Plancher and he wrote their first paper together, and just the rich history here. This is a classic American immigration success story. He is so proud of his American citizenship and his heritage. It is, the best and brightest of the world coming to America to make a difference on the planet. This is an incredible episode. And then, of course, we talk about the Clinical Orthopedic Society, which is a big meeting that's coming up. He's rekindled that society. That's going to be in Tampa in September. So we talk a lot about that. Please, please, please be prepared for an amazing episode. Dr. Scott Sigman, #Follow the Fro.
From Medical Media, this is The Ortho Show.
Hello world, Dr. Scott Sigman, your favorite opioid-sparing orthopedic surgeon, here for another episode of the Ortho Show podcast, where everyone knows we bring you the best of the best. We're going to keep it to the East Coast of the U.S. today. We have Dr. Afshin Razi, who's the president of the Clinical Orthopedic Society. He's also the vice chair and residency program director for the Department of Orthopedic Surgery, Maimonides Medical Center in Brooklyn, New York. He specializes in spine surgery. And Afshin, what a pleasure it is to have you on the show today. Thank you.
Same here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Clinical Orthopedic Society. I'm going to be a guest. Thank you so much. You've asked me to be involved on the opioid-sparing platform in particular, a little bit of social media stuff too. But we always start our conversations off at the same place for the Ortho Show, and that is we like to know where you were born. What's your history personally with your family? Are there other doctors in the family as well? And I know you've got a great story, so I'm excited to share that for you.
So great. Thank you, Scott. First of all, thanks for having me, and it's great to be here. I was born back in Iran as a Iranian Jew. My parents decided when I was 17 years old that it was time for me to leave Iran and go either to Israel or to America. It was a hard decision. My father was completely against it. My mother was pushing my dad to let me go. I was about to leave in October of the year that I left, but I decided my father did not allow me to leave. Interestingly, 2 days later, I had a bad appendicitis that I had emergency surgery, which was lucky because I had gone leaving from Iran to Pakistan, which is a long distance, and it's not a direct flight. It's actually you go through a desert. There are people who you hire to take you out of Iran. And I was lucky because if I had left at that point, then I'll be dead probably and somewhere in Pakistan. So I got lucky. Always you listen to your parents. So then my parents decided finally about 7 months later it was time for me to leave. We made arrangements. It was not easy. It wasn't cheap. There's a lot of money that you spend to hire individuals that will arrange for your escape. The process is a bit long. You go to one side of the country next to Pakistan. They pick you up from airport. It was challenging to get out. And then you go to this little house, you spend some time there, and then 2 days later, they came up with a truck and they put us in the back of the truck and they drove very fast through the borders. And then after that, they also drove another 3 days or so to us to get to a safe location. We were able to get our papers from the United Nations there, because without the papers, they could deploy you back to Iran. We got onto the train, and we were on the train for 24 hours to get to Karachi, which is the main city in Pakistan.
So
Then-
Afshin,
Yeah.
so hold for a
Yeah.
second, because I think the timing and the history of this is really important to share, right? So what year was this when you were leaving? Because 1979 was the Iranian Revolution, right?
Right.
When the Shah of Iran at that point was deposed and the Islamic people took over. So what year was this when you were escaping?
1987.
1987. So this was after
Yes.
the revolution. This is really
Yes.
amazing at this
Yes.
point. And
Right.
your parents stayed. I mean, they did not come with you.
No, they stayed. Usually, we used to leave around in high school time. Most of my friends also left Iran. The typical route was you leave, you go to another country, and from the other country you come to America, or you go to Israel. It's one of the two. This depending on what you want to do. So my parents stayed there. I was alone. When I came to America, I was about 18 years old.
You
You will
must have
hear a
had
bit.
you must have had family at this point, right? I mean,
No,
because
I
no
did not have
family.
family. No family in America. No, well, I had family in Los Angeles, but I came to New York because I want to pursue education. So I came along to New York. I had a cousin in another town in New York, but he was too far for me. I was able to secure housing, very small room, until I got to a college. I started my college.
So how did
Uh,
you all right, so again, you mean this is like such an arduous journey for an 18-year-old without your parents, with no family. So how did you get into the yeshiva university? I mean, with an application process, you knew that you were going to be getting in? I mean, tell us about that.
So I had friends. Who already were in the school, and I found a mentor who helped me through the process to get to the college. I took a English exam, entrance exam, to get into the school. We started school. It was a bit difficult to do, believe it or not. You will hear me talk more about this in Clinical Orthopedic Society and my presidential talk, because I think every individual who come to America has opportunity to pursue whatever they want to do, and that's the beauty of being in America. And some people don't recognize it; they don't appreciate what they have. And I have this discussion with a lot of people who always complain about things in life. When I started college, the first page of chemistry took me a week to read. So imagine now go through through school, two different programs. It was not easy, but I did it, and a lot of other people, my friends, did it as well. Most of my friends who came with me, and in the group, where they all became doctors, dentists, lawyers, and because we had to work hard. When you have no money, no backup, no family, the only thing you could use is your brain. So you just have to.
So I mean, were they able to provide you money for school, or for a roof over your
No.
head, or for food? I mean, so I mean, this is
So,
amazing.
to answer all that, no and no and no. So I got a lot of loans. I'm still paying back loans from those times. I had no money, so everything was on loan. I many nights I only had chips and Dr. Pepper, because I didn't want to spend money to buy real food. And I was stupid enough that I could have gotten another $1,000 of loan and really eat well, but I didn't know what's going to happen to me. I didn't know what I'm going to do in future. So I was always worried how I'm going to support myself, how I'm going to pay back the loan. So I tried to do my best not to take as much loan as possible. So I cut down from the food, which was stupid looking back 40 years later, 30 something years later, because
Amazing.
$1,000 a year wouldn't make a difference 30 years later, but I didn't know.
Well, but that's the
So
struggle. That's the struggle of the journey. So you obviously were fluent in Farsi. You must have been able to speak English, but you weren't really very good at reading English at the time, or not even.
no, all that. I understood some English. I spoke some English, but reading is different. If you try to read, you speak Spanish.
A little
Do you speak
medical
any other
Spanish here.
language?
Yeah, mi
Right.
lápiz es amarillo. My pencil's yellow in Spanish. That's about what I got.
So imagine you know some Spanish and you want to read a Spanish book. Can you understand it?
Yeah,
Absolutely not.
no,
Right.
no.
But you know what? It's not only me. A lot of people come to America with no money, no language, no house, and they work hard because you have to have a goal and you have to have a grit to go forward. You can't give up. Once you know that you have one option and is only use your brain to go forward, because you have no, unless if you go work on construction, you need money to do anything in America. So I didn't have any of that. So I only had the brain part. So
But you did well. I mean,
yes,
it's not like, we have had many guests on the Ortho Show that struggle to get into medical school. They go to college, they
right.
speak perfectly good English, they're American citizens, but yet, it takes them 6 years and gap years and extra work to be able to get there. But you get accepted to the Albert Einstein, School of Medicine after you graduate from the yeshiva in 4 years. I mean, that
Yeah.
is so impressive.
Well, actually, I graduated 3.5 years.
I'm
But
sorry. Even better. There you go. You're really making us look bad here, Afshin. I'm telling you.
yeah, so I work hard. Right now, I tell you, summer times was disaster because I had no housing in summertime, and I didn't have money to go. There was no Airbnb back then. Nobody wanted to take anybody, so I struggled, and I struggled for every summer. And I hated my summers. I didn't want to have a summer because I had no idea where I'm going to live. One summer I spent with some family. Another summer I actually spent another family for a month because I was taking courses at the same time. My third summer, I was doing research. I was taking a course. I was doing research at Sloan Kettering, and I have no housing. So I found actually a synagogue that allowed me to sleep in their building with no hot water and nothing. To extend that about a month into it, I actually was with my friends going to school and came back. I was going to take the train, and I actually passed out on the street. So actually, he felt bad, and he took me to his house for the next month, for the second month. And at the same time, I was studying for MCAT. I was applying for medical school. I didn't know what's going to happen to me because you don't know, you don't know what you're going to do. But then I actually did not do so well in my MCAT, honestly. I don't know how I got into medical school. I think people just loved my history and story, I think. I did very well. My GPA was very high, I think 3.9 or something, but my MCAT was not good. But I got to medical school. I went to Einstein. I tell you about Einstein. And I make this joke. It was me and my good friend. We were in college together. I knew him from back in Iran. We were classmates. He also from Iran. Unfortunately, he passed away 4 years ago from COVID in California. He was a plastic surgeon. So we were sitting in the class, and they say hypertension. I turned to him. I said, "What is hypertension?" And he goes, "I don't know." Then I said, "You know what? I think we're screwed."
Well, so you went into orthopedics instead, so you don't have to know what hypertension is. Oh my God! Did you know my friend Spike Foreman by any chance? He was the hospital president at the time of Montefiore. So you would travel, you would
No,
have been gone there for residency. No,
no, I wasn't there.
yeah,
So that's the story of my medical school. We struggled. we were seeing everybody would go out. My friend and I, my roommate and I, we were studying till 3 o'clock every night. Every chapter, it took us a week to read. We have to read it 3 times to understand and memorize it. So I learned back then, and for me to take something in, I need to read it 3 times. So we did it. He went to ENT and I went to orthopedics, right? But we worked hard.
Well, obviously you did. I mean, you continued to sort of have these insurmountable goals or insurmountable moments in your life that you just continue to push through. It's like your perseverance. You will not say no. You'll continue to push. Getting into orthopedics was very difficult. You needed to be at the top of your medical school class. You needed to do well on the exams to be able to do so. So obviously an amazing thing. And then the story just continues on for you. You go to Mount Sinai and you think you're all set. And then all of a sudden the hospital goes bankrupt, right?
Yes.
I mean, and so thank God for Joe Zuckerman, right? So tell us that story, right? You get into one of the premier residencies in the country.
Oh yeah. So first, I had just got married actually about 3 months before they went bankrupt. And my wife didn't want to come to Cleveland, but she came. And she was the happiest when this happened and we had to come back to New York because she was from New York. So so we come back and I interviewed a couple of places. Actually, I interviewed in Maimonides, where I am now, and I interviewed at joint disease. And Maimonides called me right away. Oh, you got a spot. And the next day I go and I meet with Joe. And that was the first year that NYU and joint disease had combined their residency. So I go and I walk in and I said, come on, this is not for me. I'm not like these kids here, like this residents. I'm not anything close to these guys. And somehow Dr. Zuckerman, who has been my mentor, I don't know, he's everything for me. He called me, he goes, you know what? I like you. You're going to be with us. That was it.
And that's the story.
That's the story.
I mean, it's, what a mensch for Joe to sort of identify you and want to,
Right.
help you in your success. I mean, there's no greater thing as a mentor to be able to help those that you're trying to bring along with you. And so that was an amazing experience in your residency. You decide to stay. Spine becomes your passion. You decide to do a spine fellowship. You're a spine surgeon, at this time as well. You've stayed in New York your entire professional career. You've moved around a bunch, right? But now at Maimonides Medical Center, you have the only, spine center in Brooklyn. You must be very proud of your accomplishments and bringing this to the people of Brooklyn as well.
Yes, it has been a great journey. I started practice at NYU, and then I joined a private practice, part of NYU. And then we joined back NYU full time. But at the same time, in 2008, I was asked from Maimonides, one of my other good colleague and one of my other mentors, Dr. Jack Schwecka, who's a chair at Maimonides, to help him with the residency in 2008. While I was working full time at NYU, I was doing this work at Maimonides to run the residency. And then ultimately in 2018, I decided to move to Maimonides, and I had many discussions with Joe, and he actually encouraged me to do the move. He encouraged me to do the move because I think he saw something in me that he wanted me to grow in leadership, and I think that was the best move I did. Although I still love NYU, I still talk to all my friends at NYU. Although I still call Joe Zuckerman all the time as my mentor and any problems I have. But I think it was a good move for me to give better opportunity to grow. And I'm a bit crazy because I can't sit down and say, okay, what do I do next? Because one of the main things that came to me as my midlife crisis, that is there anything else I can go learn? So I've done a couple of leadership courses. I always wanted to do MBA, but I'm just scared to commit to it at this age. But I feel that if I don't pursue something more, I'm gonna get old fast.
So speaking of which, did you pursue American citizenship?
Oh yes, that was automatic. After a few years, I became citizenship, and that wasn't a problem. And I really owe everything to America. I'll show you guys in my talk what I wrote. It's you come to this world for some reason, and somebody needs to give you opportunity to grow, and that was America. And America gave me the opportunity to grow. And on the way through this process, I have had many people who have believed in me to give me the opportunity to grow. Everything has to have, you can't have everything yourself. You can't do everything. You need mentors, you need coaches, you need people to believe in you to keep you going forward.
I mean, immigration's a very hot topic these days, but I mean, I'm so moved by your story, and I think of, you are the classic success story for American immigration. The best and brightest from around the world coming here to contribute to our society and making our society a better place, and so passionate about the opportunities that you've been able to have here. Persecuted as a Jew in Iran with the, Iranian Revolution, coming here by yourself on your own with a backpack on your back with no money and unable to read English, and yet here you are, an established amazing orthopedic spine surgeon. It's just such an incredible story. So listen, Afshin, I want to talk about something else. I mean, your story has been so amazing, but you do have another passion, which is the Clinical Orthopedic Society, which you have taken over the reins at this point and bringing that society, which is one of the oldest orthopedic societies in America, back to the forefront. So tell us, a little bit about the society and its rich history.
Yes, great. Yes, Scott, this has been a great journey for me the last, since September of 2023 when I became a president. I had no idea about Clinical Orthopedic Society, and so is another 90% of orthopedic surgeons out there, which has become my goal to change that within the next few months. Orthopedic Clinical Society was created in 1912. The first orthopedic society was AOA in 1887. And then back in 1912, 1910, when polio was very common in America, orthopedic surgeons were concerned about how to treat polio in orthopedics. So there was no committee, there was no meeting, there was no society, there was no teaching around. People were just doing whatever they wanted to do. So 35 people from AOA sat down and decided that we need to have some clinical society that is going to discuss orthopedic problems. And that's how in 1912, the Clinical Orthopedic Society, which used to be called Central Orthopedic Society because it was the center of America, was created to discuss orthopedic diseases. And the first meeting was in Chicago in 1912, at the place we always go to take our boards, the Palmer House. And then it continued every year. And every year the membership went up and higher and higher. And interestingly, the way they used to do their meetings, which I tried to do this year for my meeting, it didn't work out, was they would get on the train, they would go from one part of the country. First, they would start one side of the country. They would go to 2 different hospitals in 2 different days. They would bring in live patients because there was no x-rays and things they could do. They would examine patients. They would discuss the patient. They would discuss the pathology. They would discuss the treatments for 2 days. And we have all their agendas, scientific programs, we have them. And we will show it in this year's annual meeting. We are going to have a history room with all those things on the wall for people to see. And you look at these things, the old pathology that we're talking about back then, they would finish the 2 days in one city. They would get on the train and would go to the other part of this country. And meanwhile, people would get onto this train and they would continue discussing orthopedic diseases and would go to the other side and they would go to another 2 hospitals, do the same thing. And that was their annual meeting for many years.
Amazing. And obviously, there was a period of time when it was really, such an important part of the orthopedic world. And for our listeners, I mean, I think it's appropriate that, 1912 with polio, what orthopedics means straightening of children. I mean, that's where the derivation of the name of our specialty really came from. So tell us about, so this incredibly rich history, and then it waned. I mean, there was a real sort of, loss of importance to this meeting. There's so many other societies that are out there. But, just a couple of years ago or a year and a half ago, this is now in your lap, and you feel so passionate about bringing back the history of Clinical Orthopedic Society, but not just the history, but in its present form and moving forward. So tell us about, I mean, I know that, Joe Zuckerberg is going to be there. You've got some really, cool people that you're pulling in on this meeting. And so I want you to share with our listeners a little bit about what they would expect at the meeting that's coming up in September. September? Am I right?
September 4th through September 4th through 7th. So we decided within the board, myself and the last president, Dr. Brandon McKay, to really push ourselves to the limit this year and hopefully next year to bring back COS back to life. I agree, it has lost its momentum, which is understandable with having many regional societies, many specialty societies. So this year we plan to do many different things. We tried our best to get the best speakers possible, including yourself.
Thank you. Very honored to be there. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. And we decided to pursue it and make it as close to what they used to do in past. In past, we actually used to have 1 or 2 live patients in our annual meeting. We are hoping to have 1 or 2 this year as well. But we switched things from having only lectures to have more of case presentations, debate, to mirror what they used to do 100 years ago. Dr. Sigman is going to be there. He's
Okay.
going to do it's going to be great. I'm very excited to hear you. I've heard so much about you, so I'm hoping to hear more. We have a great pediatric surgeons coming from all over the country. We have our Ruth Jackson, president, will be there as one of our panelists for pediatrics. We then will go through the history of orthopedics, not Clinical Orthopedic Society, but societies. We have representative from AOA, which was before Clinical Orthopedic Society. Then we have ABOS, and then we have AOS president, and then we have someone from RIF is going to be there. So it's not going to be only about Clinical Orthopedic Society. My goal is to create what Clinical Orthopedic Society was and what it created as they went along.
Very important. So residents, medical students, fellows, there's an opportunity for them to be able to participate as well. So I love that when we sort of incorporate the full spectrum of all of the orthopedic surgeons, whether they're in training or, our senior statesmen that you have as well, whether it's Joe Zuckerman or Paul Turnetta. So you've really got a great, incredible sort of list. And so again, I'd like everybody to remember, so where is it going to be? What's the timeline again? Let's make sure everybody knows how to find out about this.
So the meeting, this is our 112th meeting, which is going to be in Tampa, September 4th through 7th, Wednesday through Saturday. We have extended the day to Saturday afternoon because we have a dedicated program for medical students, residents, and we have also a separate program for physician extenders and any other physicians who wants to be trained on Iovera. From Pacira group, we're going to teach people how to do the injections and ultrasound guided injection on Saturday afternoon. We are pushing our forces towards medical student and residents. I have a great news. I mean, traditionally, COS used to get about 120, 130 abstracts. This year, we have 538 abstracts submitted, which is great. And we had 200 people that submitted abstracts. And we are hoping to really push our resources towards medical student residents. I'm all about residents and now medical students. So this is the best opportunity for me to do my thing in this year.
So listen, Afshin, this has been fantastic. At the Ortho Show, we love to share the stories, not just about orthopedic surgeons, but the history of orthopedics. So the Clinical Orthopedic Society, I was really, very honored to be asked to be able to chair the panel for opioid sparing. We're going to talk to Pacira. We're going to make sure that they're a big part of this as well. They already all said thank you to Pacira for being able to
Thank you.
sponsor this, for iovera, and for opioid sparing techniques with Exparel, as well as with Silretta as well. So, but listen, I really want to thank you, Afshin. I mean, your story is incredibly moving. I mean, the arduous journey of a 17-year-old leaving home without your parents, can barely speak the language, and then literally within a decade, brings himself to the point of becoming an orthopedic spine surgeon. It is the classic American immigration success story. Your passion as an American, it just comes out of your pores, and I just want to thank you for all of the work that you've done within orthopedics and being able to share your story and being able to mentor all of these residents, and now bringing the Clinical Orthopedic Society back up to its stature of where it needs to be in the past as well. So we can't thank you enough for taking the time today to share your story.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This has been great journey. And I'm hoping to see all of you guys over there. We'll have fun. It's great. We need to recreate Clinical Orthopedic Society with the help of you, people like you, the new generation, and the orthopedic surgeons around the world.
Thank you so much, Afshin. This is Dr. Scott Sigman, #FollowTheFro, host of The Ortho Show. Till next time.